Good afternoon, and welcome to our first session of Beauty for Ashes podcast. Thank you so much for joining in. My name is Tanya, your host, and we have the lovely Miss Tia as your co-host. We are excited to hear and share real life experience that will help deliver, encourage, and lift up our brothers and sisters in need. What have you ever thought about what exactly is in a name? I mean, what is their significance? These are the questions my 11-year-old daughter asked me when I told her that I would be doing a podcast. What's in a name? And after going over this long, drawn out explanation, she looks at me and she says, "So God is going to turn ashes into beauty?" And I said, exactly. That's what it is. That's what it is in the short run. God is going to turn ashes into beauty. And so our podcast is showing us how to have the ash-like moments in our lives and see the beauty in them. So I guess it's a way of changing the perspective of how you see things. And so our very first topic we're having is the question, what is your ashes, your beauty for ashes moment? What is that moment for you? And we have the very lovely Miss Iva Bush as our guest on today, and she's going to share with us a beauty for ashes moment that she's experienced in her life. Um, if I had to think of one, I would say when I first heard about the topic, I thought about how when I was growing up and I lived in this house, it was a 4-room house, and I can remember feeling, maybe so less than because a lot of my family and my friends, they all had, so I didn't have any running water, we didn't have a bathroom, and so everyone else did, and so it had me feeling some kind of way. However, I used that because I realized that, that was where I started. And I realize now where I am. And so I realized that at that moment, that's where God had me at that moment. That was my ashes. And so I look at that as an example of saying, hey, if that's where God can take me from there to here, then any situation that I'm in, I just reference that of what God did for me. So I reference that as my moment of my ash moment. And so, that's what this podcast is about, changing your perspective of how you see your current situation. And so I asked my co-host, the lovely Miss Tia, what is your beauty for ash moment? What is your beauty for ashes moment? What comes to you? What came to you?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Tanya, for asking. My ash moment will be choosing to love myself. In the beginning moments, it was a lack and neglect of being in tune with who I am, my worth, and being able to be well-rounded now in the connections of understanding how important it is to love on yourself. It is beautiful. And having those moments now to look back and just thinking of the ashes. We choose in our lives at times to care for everyone else. And in the midst of doing so, neglect ourselves. So I say for me, first and key is understanding the importance of loving on yourself, choosing yourself, knowing your worth, being able to promote wellness, and also having a voice. I think about times where I wasn't able to speak up for myself. And I look now how beautiful it is and how much of a good feeling within my soul that not only that I'm able to speak up, but it's a way. It's the tone. It's the attitude. It's all connected with your moments of choosing you. Choosing you in a moment of any situation is powerful. And I can't think nothing more beautiful than being in tune with our platform, Beauty for Ashes. And I take that and I will say I'm just loving on me. And thank you for sharing your beauty for ashes and where you come from in your background. And I will say that's my beauty for ashes, loving on myself in order to be able to love on anyone else. And I'll turn it over to our special guest, Iva. Thank you for joining us today. And Iva, just wanted to ask, what is your beauty for ashes moment?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here on this first podcast of yours. The moment that Tanya asked me, what I would be speaking on, what we would be speaking about today, I went back to a time, a very early time in my life. And I wanted to talk about it because basically, at my age now, I was wondering, why do I do some of the things that I do? Mm-hmm. And so I remember, and I was extremely young, and but this had a great effect on me, what happened. And it was a friend, a boyfriend actually of my mother's. And he was a musician. I'm a vocalist, and he was a musician. And I remember he would bring his bands and things to the house. And so we would listen to all this great music that he would bring. And actually, he was after I lost my father when I was very young. And after the death of my father, I know it was very difficult for my mom to have a boyfriend and things like that and have anybody in her life. So, and introduce them to her children. And I remember, just how much love I had for him. And he ended up, experiencing alcoholism. As a child, I didn't know what that was, but as an adult, I do. And I just remember, just him being a great musician, coming in time, doing certain things and, those happy, good things, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I just love him. And I really did. But when we were, I think I was probably in about maybe fourth grade or so, something like that. My mom and I were sitting at the table every year right before Christmas. I would have all my magazines and things out, looking at all these different items that I'd like to get for Christmas, and, I was trying to figure out a way, because I knew, hey, hopefully there's nobody too young here that doesn't know that there's no Santa Claus. Okay. And so I would, write down the different things I was going to get for Christmas and things. And I was writing all that stuff down. And I was talking to her about it, just like, if you see Santa, can you let him know, this is what I like. And I started writing the stuff down and go through some magazines. What I did not know was that her friend, he thought we were plotting to kill him. And it was within about 2 or so weeks, my mom wasn't able to find him at all. And his family wasn't getting in touch with us to let us know what had gone, where he was at. So we were all worried. I was extremely worried. I was just like, I loved him. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what happened? And so finally, one of his best friends contacted my mom. It was about 2 to almost 3 weeks later that they contacted her and said that he thought that we were plotting to kill him. And they just went through all the different things that occurred from that. And I had heard it because my mom didn't tell me directly, but someone was, she was telling one of our family members what had happened. And so to hear that, it was the most sad and daunting thing in my whole entire life. And it's just very sad. And it took me some time to understand what happened. But after some time and after some prayer and talking to people, I started to understand what went on and that how sad. I began to feel for him. And I had seen him then sometime afterwards, and we had talked and everything. But to know that him hearing our conversation, that he thought something like that was very sad for me. So at that point forward, and after talking to him and everything else, it made me look at not only what some of the things that I say, but what people that go through that have an issue, whether it be alcoholism, drugs, whatever it may be, that they have a sickness or an illness. And like any sickness or illness, we need to talk to them, conversate with them, and talk about it. And I always look at people, even now, I remember people used to ask me, if you see somebody in the street or you see somebody that's in need, or at a corner or something like that, they're, you can tell that they're going through something, homeless and things like that. Everybody would always wonder why I would talk to them. I said, because they're people. And I always remember, that experience and saying, I want to know what's, because maybe my conversation with them may help in some way. That conversation that I had with him and talking to him made me understand that, he didn't know that he had done that. He didn't know the effects that it had on me until I spoke to him. But we need to take that time to talk and conversate with people and find out why somebody is on the street, if they need our help. It might not be the money that they're asking you for. It might be that relationship. So if there's someone that, you have in your life that you haven't seen in some time, maybe you need to reach out and find out, make sure that they're okay. So anyway, the beauty from that situation is that I'm talking to you all right now, telling it. Tanya, I'm sure, doesn't know this story. I know that I've known Tanya 20 years. I know she doesn't know that story. I know Tia wouldn't know that story or anything else like that. Some people that are in my life don't know that story, but it's something that really affected me. And then it's something that I look back on, and my tears are not my tears are for the child that I was at that time, and that how sad it was for me for that time. But I'm so grateful for this time and opportunity to share it with other people and to let them know that, just have a conversation with people. There's somebody that you might not know, don't be afraid. And so anyway, that's what I wanted to share. Again, there might be someone that's homeless. There might be someone that you're giving money. I've quite often seen people who say when they want to give somebody some money at the corner, they're going to buy alcohol, they're going to buy this or that, the other. That has never, ever even crossed my mind. And when anybody says that to me, and I say, that's not for me to judge. It isn't for me to judge what they're going to do. But if I can have a conversation, or if I can give them $1 that might help them, or give them food, that's what I have to do. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I heard closure. I heard peace. I heard joy.
Yes.
Thank you so much. People are going to feel what you just said. It was heartfelt. It was so many connections on a level of what the world needs.
Yeah.
I heard so much. Go ahead.
No, I totally agree, Tia. Because what I'm thinking and what I'm hearing when I'm listening to both stories is that when listening to what you were saying, Ms. Tia, about loving yourself. I realized that, the ashes in that is when you don't love yourself because of who you attract when you don't love yourself. But when you love yourself, the beauty is in those that you attract to you because they see that you love you. And so those that you attract to you, that those will be attracted, are those that are going to love you because you love you. And, Miss Iva, I love the story, because sometimes it's those things in our childhood, in our past that sort of, has its way of shaping us. But when we look at how it's shaping us, I like what you said, that you had the utmost respect for this, for your father, for your stepfather. You had this utmost respect for him. And for him to think that, your love, your respect that you have for him, to see that in any other way was hurtful. Because you're saying, how else can I show you that I care, or how much I care for you? And so, sometimes we don't understand what someone else is going through. We don't understand their mindset. And so when we get to that point, we have to, the ashes behind it is looking like, hey, I can't understand, I could be scarred and saying, I'm never going to feel that way about somebody again because it's going to be misunderstood. However, the beauty behind it is that whenever I see someone that may be, feeling some kind of way or looking some kind of way, or folks are turning their nose up, I'm going to say to myself that perhaps I'm not going to misunderstand them like someone misunderstood me. And so I'm going to reach out. I want to reach out because I want to be that one to make a difference. And that, Iva, that Miss Tia, is exactly what this what this podcast is all about. We want to take those moments of ashes. I call them ashes. We want to take those moments and allow the Father, the Holy, allow him to show us the beauty in it. And in showing you the beauty in our situation, perhaps you will see the beauty in your situation. Thank you so much for joining us on our very first session of Beauty for Ashes, where we've each talked about our Beauty for Ashes moment. Come back next week. Thank you.